Has someone in your family, or perhaps the court system, filed for adult guardianship of your elderly parent? Or has adult guardianship been granted on an emergency basis, and maybe the permanent hearing is coming up? Has a permanent guardianship been granted and you're not at all happy with the family member appointed as guardian or the professional appointed as guardian? Adult guardianship hearings for an elderly parent can be very emotional, especially if there are conflicts between parents and their children, or you as a sibling. Maybe one sibling has been appointed and the other siblings don't think they're doing a good job. Or maybe the court appointed a professional and nobody in the family is happy about that. The term guardianship differs by state. So for this video, I'm talking about guardianship of the person, which relates to where a person lives, their daily activities, how their daily care is carried out, medical care, and things like that. I'm not talking about guardianship of the estate, which is money, although these two go hand in hand. So for adult guardianship hearings, what can be done if there is any type of dispute or disagreement? The answer is that it depends on each individual situation. So in this video, I'm going to share an example of how family conflict around a parent with memory loss or guardianship for an elderly parent begins, so that you can see how these proceedings can just go off track and result in families needing some help. Let me mention, I'm not an attorney. I'm a professional fiduciary. I'm not a law firm here looking to advise you or to have you retain me. What I do is I serve as an expert witness for law firms and for families in litigation about guardianship, care management, guardianship standards, and things like that. But I will say that if you hire the wrong attorney and the wrong law firm, you can spend thousands of dollars and end up in a bigger mess than when you started. I'm Pamela D Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. I have 25 years of professional experience in the field that I call caregiving. 11 of these years I served as a court-appointed guardian, conservator, attorney-in-fact under medical and financial matters, and as a care manager. So as I mentioned today, again, I work with families and I'm retained by law firms for these matters. So let's talk about adult guardianship hearings and where these can go wrong if there is family conflict or if family members are not paying attention to the fact that mom or dad has memory loss. The basis for adult guardianship in the court system is usually an older adult who has what's called a neurocognitive impairment. I use that term because it can encompass Alzheimer's, dementia, mixed dementia, Lewy bodies dementia, aphasia, dementia related to Parkinson's disease. It can be related to a brain injury that came from a car accident. So a lot of issues under this term of neurocognitive disorder. Now what can happen is family members can recognize that a loved one has memory loss, but they don't really seek a diagnosis. So while you know it's memory loss, you're not sure the source of the memory loss. And so what happens is there's memory loss, maybe there's a prescription for Aricept or something like that. Mom or dad, who's the caregiver, is doing the best they can, but the other parent is like, there is nothing wrong with me. What do you mean I have memory loss? No, I'm not taking those medications. No, I'm not going to go to the doctor. No, I don't need care. No, I'm not moving to a care community. So it's these refusals to acknowledge memory loss and refusals to actually participate in care that lead families to court. Because in my opinion, if an elderly person, an older adult, has memory loss and they are accepting care, then there's really no need for the court to get involved as long as there is a care plan with somebody coordinating care And this person is the attorney in fact under a medical power of attorney. So I have another video, more about that topic in another video because that is an extensive topic. So in this case we're talking about today, mom or dad has memory loss. They refuse to acknowledge that they have memory loss. They're not participating in care. And honestly, maybe their memory loss has gone on so far that they don't even realize at this point you can't tell them they have memory loss. And they're not going to do anything that the caregiving parent or spouse is asking them to do, so it's a problem. It can almost be a neglectful situation, not intentionally, but if your mom or dad who's the caregiver doesn't know how to get your mom or dad with memory loss to take medications or bathe or change their clothing or go to the doctor, that's a problem, because if they end up in the hospital multiple times, the hospital system is going to see this as risky and potentially self-neglectful, or they're going to see your parent who's the caregiver as being abusive, and they're going to do something because they are mandatory reporters of elder abuse. So what happens is hospital calls the police and they call Adult Protective Services who do an investigation. And these people may contact just your dad. If they have your information, they may contact you, but it may just be, your dad managing all this. And again, we're going to go back to your parents didn't plan. There's no estate plan. Your parent with memory loss doesn't have a power of attorney document that designates somebody to take over their medical care or take over managing their money. So, no plan. And by this time, honestly, it can be too late to do a plan. Any attorney who might be consulted might say, it's too late, this person doesn't have capacity. Or if an attorney does this and they do find that they have capacity and it turns out later that they didn't, that can open a whole nother can of worms. So, mom or dad's in the hospital, caregiver, parent is at home, Adult Protective Services and the police get involved, and your dad who's the caregiver or your mom who's the caregiver just doesn't realize that this is serious. This is serious. So if they don't respond to the police and Adult Protective Services and they don't participate and they don't say everything they've been trying to do to take care of the spouse who doesn't want to participate, the hospital can find a professional guardian and an attorney and have them initiate a guardianship petition. Now, most of the time, since the hospital has family information, someone in the family will be notified. It's usually your father. However, I've seen sometimes where, because the hospital was suspicious of the parent who was the caregiver and they didn't want them to know about the guardianship petition, it just went to an emergency hearing. Judge granted it because he thought, the hospital knew what they were doing and Adult Protective Services, did their investigation. So all of a sudden, a professional guardian is appointed. This professional shows up at your dad's house one day and says, hey, here's my piece of paper, here's my guardian order. I am now in control of your wife or your husband's care. And tomorrow I'm moving them from the hospital to this care home. And by the way, because of this other court order, you're going to pay for it. So your dad is like all upset. He doesn't even know how this happened. Didn't know how any of this went down. Doesn't understand legal terms. Maybe he did get a notice and he thought, well, this is no big deal. I don't have to show up. These attorneys can't do anything. Blah, blah, blah. Well, wrong. Now, I know this can be a situation that sounds pretty unbelievable, but I can tell you that in some states and some circumstances, it happens. So, if you are a family member and this happened, it's time to get involved to see what you can do if you would prefer to be that guardian, or if somebody else in the family would prefer to be that guardian. And just as a warning to family members who aren't even here yet, if your parent has memory loss, do not ignore it, especially if your parent who is the caregiver is getting burned out and exhausted and they don't seem to be taking care of your parent with memory loss, that can be a problem. So let's say as this happened and you as siblings found out and you're all upset with your dad because he didn't do anything, right? And you definitely don't want this professional guardian involved, right? So your only option is to protest through the court system by hiring an attorney to contest the appointment. Now, if you and your dad don't agree or you and your siblings don't agree, then maybe your family is split and you've got two parts of the family who need to hire an attorney and contest this with the court and then hash it out on, does the professional guardian stay? Is somebody in the family appointed? Do we appoint another professional guardian? How does all of this work out? It can be extremely complicated. So again, kind of going back to the earlier part of this video, if you're in the situation, find the right attorney. If you don't know how to do this, call me. I can help you with that. If you're in a situation and you need an expert witness, you can contact me. The links are below. If you are a law firm watching this and you need an expert in caregiving, guardianship, conservatorship, care planning, you can contact me to help your family members. All of the links are below to my website. You can visit my website. It's PamelaDWilson.com. Click on the Services tab. There are 2 pages that say Expert Witness. I thank you so much for being here. I do these videos on behalf of family caregivers who share these crazy experiences with me and who ask questions about how to deal with these situations. There are over 900 videos here on my YouTube channel. I look forward to seeing you again soon in another video. Please do like the video, share it with other people you know who are seeking similar help and support.